The annual G7 summit kicked off today in Italy.
President Biden, along with other world leaders, have a busy agenda for the next few days. But Ukraine is topping the agenda today. Biden's expected to sign a new deal with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, pledging U.S. support for the next 10 years.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is traveling with the president. She joins us now from there in Italy. So, Nancy, tell us, what is President Biden promising in terms of support for Ukraine?
Well, this is a pretty major agreement, Lana. It's been in the works for quite some time. The president, along with President Zelenskyy, are going to sign it on the stage right behind me a couple of hours from now. And essentially what it is a bilateral agreement, an agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine that the U.S. will continue to support Ukraine for the next 10 years. We're talking about military assistance, weaponry, training, basically sending a message to the world, and in particular to Vladimir Putin, that the U.S. isn't going anywhere, even if this war drags on. The U.S. president is the 16th world leader to sign such an agreement with Vladimir Zelenskyy. A lot of European nations have already done so. And what the U.S. has been looking to do is reassure other European nations that the U.S. is in this for the long haul. As you can imagine, European leaders got pretty nervous when Congress took about half a year to go ahead and approve more military aid to Ukraine. There were a lot of Republicans who balked, who were demanding more money for the border and things like that. And that led to some concern among world leaders that perhaps the U.S. support for Ukraine was shaky. Perhaps it might go away altogether if Donald Trump is reelected in the fall. And so this is President Biden trying to send a signal to them that the White House is in it for the long haul, even though I should point out, guys, this is not a binding agreement. It is not a treaty. And so if Trump were to win in November, he could roll it back as he sees fit.
And perhaps because of that, Nancy, you have this larger deal as well with G7 negotiators reaching an agreement to loan Ukraine, I think, up to $50 billion using frozen Russian assets. Talk to us about that layer of this.
Yes, this has been in the works for a couple of years, ever since the U.S. and European nations, really countries all over the world, began freezing Russian assets in their country as a punishment to Russia after it invaded Ukraine unprovoked. And so there's about $300 billion in assets out there. It's all been collecting interest. And so, these world leaders have been trying to figure out how to utilize that interest, those profits, to help the Ukrainians whose infrastructure has been virtually destroyed, who need more capacity, for example, to produce their own weapons so they don't have to rely on the U.S. and other nations. And so at this summit here in Italy, the world leaders have finally come to an agreement on all the particulars. And the U.S. is going to be putting a lot of money into this, tens of billions of dollars, but many other nations as well. A $50 billion loan that will eventually be paid down using the interest from seized Russian assets.
Nancy, I'm still thinking about what you said about that point, which was so astute, that after the election, all of these promises by President Biden can be unraveled. So I'm wondering, given that, what else the president has on his agenda for this summit and how other world leaders are perhaps interacting with him.
Right. I mean, Donald Trump did not have a great relationship with many of his fellow G7 leaders. The summits tended to be pretty tricky affairs when he was here. He often didn't agree with them. For example, on the Paris Climate Accords, he came to, I believe it was his first G7 summit, and said that he was likely to back out of the Paris Accords. And so that was a rocky relationship. Here in Italy at this particular summit over the next couple of days, beyond Ukraine, they're also talking about the situation in the Middle East. They're talking about climate change in Africa. They're talking about artificial intelligence. And in all of these areas, the White House says there is broad general agreement between the U.S. and its G7 partners.
All right, Nancy Cordes with that comprehensive update. Thank you so much.